Let me begin by asking, what is the point of getting angry when we know it only harms us? Why should we allow someone else's words or actions to disturb our inner world? In youth, anger is often mistaken for strength, but in old age, calmness is the true sign of wisdom. In old age, one of the greatest signs of maturity is learning how to emotionally detach from negativity. Life is full of irritations, careless remarks, disrespectful behavior, or even misunderstandings within the family. But responding to each of these with anger only drains the spirit. With time and wisdom, it becomes clear that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every comment deserves our emotional investment. Emotional detachment does not mean we stop caring. It means we care more about our peace than about reacting to temporary discomforts. In youth, emotions rise quickly. We want to correct others, defend ourselves, and demand justice. But as we grow older, we understand that people act from their own experiences, traumas, and limitations. Their behavior often has nothing to do with us personally, and realizing this makes it easier to step back without resentment. Many elders discover that holding on to anger is like grasping a burning coal. The only person who gets burned is the one holding it. Learning to let things pass without carrying them in your heart is a skill that brings deep relief. When someone says something offensive, instead of flaring up, the wiser choice is to observe quietly. Ask yourself if it's really worth your energy, and then release it without attachment. Detachment from negativity is also about understanding how fleeting most situations are. The things that bother us today are forgotten in a week. People move on, conversations fade, and emotions shift. Why hold on to something that life itself is asking us to let go of? Old age offers a broader view. We've seen enough to know that anger rarely improves situations but often makes them worse. Emotional detachment creates space in the mind. When we are not consumed by irritation or revenge, we become calmer, more centered, and even more compassionate. It allows us to be present, to listen deeply, and to respond instead of reacting impulsively. This detachment is not coldness, it is inner strength, developed over a lifetime of learning when to speak, when to be silent, and when to simply smile and walk away. One of the most liberating realizations in old age is that life will never be exactly as we imagined, and people will never behave exactly as we expect. We spend much of our youth trying to mold situations and individuals to fit our ideals, often leading to disappointment and frustration. But with time, experience teaches us the art of acceptance, the quiet wisdom of letting things be without resistance. Acceptance does not mean weakness or surrender. It is in fact a sign of inner strength. When we accept people as they are, we stop exhausting ourselves by trying to change them. Children may grow up and make choices we don't understand. Friends may drift away. Family members may behave in ways that hurt us. But we begin to understand that our control over others is limited, and our peace depends on making room for differences without trying to erase them. In the past, a sharp word or an unexpected outcome might have caused days of mental unrest. Now, with a deeper understanding of life, we see that such reactions are unnecessary. People are shaped by their own experiences, values, and struggles. Just as we want to be accepted for who we are, others deserve that same freedom. Trying to force them into a version that suits us only creates tension and distances relationships. When we accept the flow of life, we also begin to accept its imperfections. Not every dream comes true. Not every plan unfolds the way we hoped. And yet, there is still beauty, still love, still moments of quiet joy. Acceptance allows us to see the good that remains rather than fixating on what is missing. It shifts our focus from complaint to contentment, from resistance to gratitude. And there's also a freedom in no longer needing to control every outcome. The anxiety that once came from trying to manage every situation fades when we realize that life unfolds on its own terms. Some things will resolve with time, others will not. But our sense of well-being no longer hinges on external events or the approval of others. Instead, it comes from a calm acceptance that this is how things are, and that's okay for now. Through acceptance, old age becomes a gentler season. We stop clinging to the past and fearing the future. We stop expecting people to fulfill roles they were never meant to play, and we start finding peace in the simplicity of what is, rather than the complexity of what could have been. As we age, one of the most profound shifts is the growing priority of peace over ego. In youth, the desire to assert ourselves, to prove our worth, and to demonstrate our knowledge or strength often leads to conflict. We get caught up in arguments, debates, and the need to be recognized. But with age comes the realization that maintaining inner peace is far more valuable than defending our ego. In the earlier stages of life, ego plays a central role in how we navigate the world. We seek validation, approval, and respect from others. We feel the need to assert our opinions, correct misunderstandings, and defend our beliefs. But as we accumulate life experiences, we begin to notice that these battles rarely bring the satisfaction we expect. Winning an argument doesn't guarantee happiness, and proving ourselves often leaves us more exhausted than fulfilled. Over time, we realize that peace, both internal and external, is far more rewarding. The desire to win becomes less appealing as we grow older. The argument that once would have mattered deeply now seems trivial. The approval of others, which once felt so essential, begins to lose its power. The satisfaction of being right gives way to the comfort of simply being content. At this stage, we begin to understand that life is too short to spend time on pointless power struggles. Instead, we crave tranquility, which allows us to experience the world in a more open, accepting way. Peace over ego also manifests in the ability to let go of past grudges. In youth, we often hold on to resentment, as our pride can't bear to forgive. But in old age, we see the futility of carrying around anger or bitterness. Holding on to grudges is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. It only poisons our own well-being. Forgiveness becomes a gift we give ourselves, and we begin to choose peace over the weight of unresolved emotion. As we prioritize peace, we also learn to accept our limitations. No longer do we feel the need to prove our worth in every interaction. We acknowledge that we don't know everything, that we don't need to be the authority on every subject. This shift in perspective helps us approach life with humility, and in turn this humility fosters a deeper sense of peace. We are no longer defined by how much we know or how many accomplishments we have, but by the grace with which we carry ourselves. When peace becomes our priority, we also begin to understand the importance of silence. There is wisdom in knowing when to speak and when to remain quiet. In the past, we might have felt compelled to voice our opinion in every situation, even when it wasn't necessary. Now we recognize that sometimes the greatest power lies in choosing to say nothing at all. Silence can be a response that carries more weight than any argument. This shift from ego to peace also means accepting that we will never be able to control the actions or opinions of others. In our younger years, we might have tried to change people or convince them of our perspective. But in old age, we come to see that it's far more peaceful to let others be themselves. The peace we seek doesn't come from forcing our will onto the world, but from surrendering the need to do so. Ultimately, peace over ego isn't about giving up or becoming passive. It's about recognizing that life is about more than the constant defense of self. It's about choosing moments of stillness over noise, clarity over confusion, and joy over pride. We stop fighting with the world and instead begin to live harmoniously with it. In this choice, we find a deeper connection to the essence of life itself. In old age, one of the most significant realizations is the preciousness of time and energy. As the years go by, we begin to understand that these two resources are finite, and how we choose to spend them becomes far more important than in our younger years. Time, once taken for granted, now becomes a treasure, and energy, once boundless, now needs to be carefully managed. The wisdom of age teaches us to prioritize what truly matters. In our younger days we often squander time without thinking. There's a sense of immortality, as if we have all the time in the world to chase goals, resolve conflicts, or revisit old wounds. But as we age, the reality of life's brevity settles in. The things that once seemed urgent, debates, conflicts, and unnecessary distractions, suddenly lose their significance. We recognize that our time is limited, and we begin to reassess how to spend it wisely. Similarly, the energy that once flowed easily now requires careful conservation. As we age, we learn that not all battles are worth our energy. The enthusiasm that once drove us to engage in every conversation, to correct every injustice, and to prove every point is replaced by a more measured approach. We no longer have the desire or capacity to waste energy on things that don't contribute to our well-being. Instead, we focus our energy on moments that nurture our spirit, our relationships, and our peace of mind. The value of time also brings a shift in how we prioritize people. When we were younger, we may have tried to please everyone, to be everywhere and do everything. But as we grow older, we begin to understand that our energy and time are not unlimited, and we must choose who and what we invest in. We no longer feel the pressure to meet every social obligation or attend every event. We focus on quality over quantity, nurturing relationships that truly matter, and bringing us joy. Old age also offers the chance to reconnect with what we value most. We begin to notice the simple pleasures, the quiet moments, the conversations with loved ones, the beauty of nature. We stop rushing and start appreciating. Time no longer feels like a race against the clock, but a gentle unfolding of moments. The hustle and bustle of the past fade away as we create space for reflection, creativity, and peace. Another significant shift is the awareness that not every action requires immediate response. In the past, we might have felt compelled to act swiftly in every situation, responding to messages, solving problems, addressing concerns. But with age comes the realization that some things can wait, and some things don't need to be fixed at all. We become more comfortable with pausing, taking a breath, and reflecting before jumping into action. Our time becomes more precious, not only because it is finite, but because we've seen how easily it slips away. When we look back, we see the moments we missed, family gatherings we didn't attend, experiences we didn't take, opportunities to rest that we ignored. These realizations create a desire to spend our remaining time more meaningfully. It's not about accomplishing more or doing everything perfectly, but about being present and engaged in the now. Energy, too, becomes a focal point in old age. We recognize that our physical and mental vitality isn't something we can take for granted. As a result, we become more selective in how we use our energy. Activities that drain us are given up, while those that rejuvenate us become priorities. We seek balance and strive to preserve our energy for what brings us fulfillment, rather than exhaustion. Additionally, the realization that time and energy are valuable brings a sense of peace with aging itself. We stop feeling the need to chase every fleeting trend or prove our worth in ways that once seemed essential. Instead, we embrace a simpler, more intentional life. There is a quiet satisfaction in knowing that we are using our time and energy for what truly matters to us, not what others expect of us. Ultimately, understanding the value of time and energy in old age shifts our entire perspective on life. It isn't about doing more or achieving more. It's about living with intention, embracing the present moment, and focusing on what nurtures our soul. The frantic pace of youth gives way to a slower, more purposeful rhythm, where we can savor life's simple pleasures and preserve the energy we have left for the things that bring us true joy. In old age, spiritual and mental growth becomes one of the most profound gifts that time offers. Throughout our lives, we seek wisdom, understanding, and self-awareness, but it is often in the later years that we begin to see the fruits of that journey. The quest for knowledge shifts from external achievements to internal peace, as we become more attuned to our inner selves and the world around us. Spiritual growth is no longer about following rules or adhering to dogma, but about finding a deeper sense of meaning and connection in everything we do. Mental growth in old age is not about accumulating more information, but about developing a deeper understanding of life itself. We come to realize that we don't need to know everything, and in fact, the more we learn, the more we understand how much we still don't know. This acceptance of our limitations is liberating. It frees us from the pressure of always having to be right or to have all the answers. Instead, we embrace uncertainty, knowing that life is as much about questions as it is about answers. As we grow older, we also cultivate the ability to see things from a wider perspective. The lessons of youth, often learned through trial and error, become clearer with age. We see the connections between experiences, how the challenges of our past shaped us into who we are today. This expanded view allows us to approach life with a more open heart and mind, less likely to judge and more willing to accept the flow of life as it comes. Spiritual growth, in particular, invites us to connect with something greater than ourselves. It might be a higher power, nature, or the deep sense of interconnection with all living beings. As we age, we realize that our lives are part of a larger, ever-changing tapestry. This realization brings peace, as we let go of the illusion that we are separate from the world around us. Instead, we recognize the oneness of all things. And this understanding helps us approach life with humility, love, and compassion. Mental growth in old age also manifests in the ability to practice mindfulness. As we slow down, we become more present in the moment. We are no longer consumed by the rush of the past or the worry of the future. The present moment becomes our sanctuary. We realize that happiness and contentment are not found in future achievements or past memories, but in the simple act of being fully alive in the now. This mindfulness not only enhances our mental clarity, but also improves our emotional health. With age comes the recognition that we can never control everything, but we can control our response to life. This mental growth allows us to accept circumstances beyond our control without becoming overwhelmed by them. The situations we once might have resisted, loss, change, aging, are now seen through a lens of acceptance and grace. We understand that every moment, whether joyous or difficult, is an opportunity for growth, and we learn to embrace each moment as it comes. Spiritual growth often leads us to a place of forgiveness. In our younger years, we may have clung to grudges, holding on to resentment or anger. But as we age, we understand that holding on to these negative emotions only hurts ourselves. We begin to forgive, not for the sake of the person who wronged us, but for our own peace of mind. Forgiveness becomes an act of love, an acknowledgement that we are not defined by our past hurts, but by our ability to rise above them. Mental growth also encourages us to embrace change, whereas in our youth we might have fought against the inevitable. In old age, we begin to understand that change is a natural part of life. We learn to adapt to our changing bodies, minds, and circumstances, seeing them not as losses, but as opportunities for new growth. In this acceptance of change, we find freedom. We realize that the only constant in life is change, and that our ability to embrace it with grace defines our peace. In the process of spiritual and mental growth, we also develop a greater sense of gratitude. The challenges of life that once seemed like burdens are now seen as teachers. Each hardship, each loss, and each moment of difficulty has contributed to the person we have become. We begin to express gratitude for both the good and the bad, knowing that everything has played a role in shaping our journey. This gratitude deepens our connection to ourselves and the world around us. Ultimately, spiritual and mental growth in old age leads us to a place of deep peace and acceptance. We stop fighting against life and start living with it. We realize that we don't need to have everything figured out, that our value is not based on our achievements, and that we are enough just as we are. In this place of growth, we find our true strength. not in external accomplishments, but in our ability to accept, forgive, and love unconditionally.